Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Six Ranch Podcast. On today's show, I have Cody Rich and Ben Guttormson. Before we get into that, I want to clear up a couple details from last week's show. I said the Wallowa River was flowing at 14,000 CFS when it was actually 4,100. You can see how I'd make that mistake. Harney Basin is a closed basin, but there are actually several closed basins in Oregon, like Warner, Goose Lake, Catlow, etc. And I called trout on Cornicus instead of on Corinchus. Emily pointed that one out. Furthermore, there is little scientific evidence that waterfowl transport fish eggs, but I'm sticking to this one as somewhere between feasible and highly likely. Now, on to today's show. We recorded this episode at Cody's studio in Bozeman while I was having my motorcycle worked on. I had ridden it from Oregon to Montana to shoot a sniper competition and was taking off right afterward for a bear hunt in Idaho. We talk long-range shooting, its real-world limitations, and a bunch of other BS. Enjoy the show. Do you want your voice to sound deep?
Do you got auto-tune on that thing?
Auto-tune.
I think Ben's voice sounds pretty deep anyway.
It's a little bit sultry. If you were going to announce a movie, what kind of movie would you announce? Like if you're going to do the preview.
I don't know. Cartoon?
A cartoon?
Yeah, like a kid movie.
Okay. I think you'd have to put a little bit more bounce in it.
Can you say EA Sports? It's in the game.
EA Sports. It's in the game. I was trying to go low there.
EA Sports.
Alrighty, guys.
Well, I have with me Cody Rich from the Rich Outdoors podcast and Backcountry Fuel Box, and Ben Guttormson. I don't even know how to describe your job. How would you describe your job?
I don't know. It depends on the day.
It's Tuesday?
Yeah. So on Tuesdays, I work in sales and marketing for a firm that's based out east. And we handle and work with products across the outdoor space. Very broad spectrum. We're very diversified. We, fishing categories, ammunition, bullet categories, hunting categories, archery specific products, firearm specific products. I believe we're one of the largest sales and marketing agencies in the country. We offer representation coast to coast. I think we have over 50 on the ground people working. And we've got two divisions. We've got a hunting division, and then we have an outdoor division. So, yeah, it's a great company.
Yeah,
So.
And just so people understand a little bit, like when you go into either a mom and pop outdoor store, fishing, hunting store, bait shop, whatever, or you're going into a Sportsman's or a Cabela's, somebody like you is working with that store to sort of help them acquire all of their goods, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So it's an exercise in taking advantage of all programs that the manufacturer offers and to maintain the highest level of profitability in the brands that we're working with. So we kind of work both sides. We work with the brands to offer attractive programs. We help develop programs for these brands to have for, be it buy group members or just your mom and pop shop. And then we actually have teams that work with all the major box stores.
Okay.
And all the, be it Bass Pro Cabela's or like Academy. Academy's based down south. So it's a, we're interwoven, kind of helping connect the brands with the dealers, from on every level.
And the hunting industry is like a $17 billion industry annually.
Yeah, I think that sounds pretty close.
Right in that ballpark.
Yeah, it might be.
$17 billion industry.
It's crazy.
So last year, hunters spent $11 billion on travel.
Really?
Yeah. So when I'm talking about the importance of thinking about things like like motorcycle-based hunting as a new avenue for people to travel in order to experience the outdoors and basically experience everything that you experience on a motorcycle en route to your destination. This is a really big industry that folks have kind of yet to tap into and yet to appreciate, because when you go from A to B, there's actually quite a few letters between A and B where people are stopping and spending money. It's not free to get anywhere.
That's insane. A lot of money. I didn't realize it was that big.
It's pretty big. And I don't know who counts that. I wouldn't want to be in charge of counting that. But this is what I read.
Well, you think of
Let's go on a limb and say those are made up numbers.
Yeah, I mean, you look
They're
at
all made up numbers.
You look at what a hunter goes through to go on a hunting trip.
Yeah,
and you're at a pretty substantial dollar figure, and then you start to look at it like he's spending equally as much to get where he's going and to spend the time there, be it in the transportation, in the the groceries, and everything. So at the end of the year, a really hardcore guy is going to spend a pile of money on gear, and then there's the travel aspect of it.
Yeah.
So
Jordan Budd did a beautiful podcast for Rock Slide that detailed basically everything that you would need to do a small backpack hunt, and went through every piece of gear and what she uses and how much it costs, and kind of gave you a top figure, middle figure, bottom figure. And it was basically to do it correctly, but as inexpensively as possible, without optics, guns, ammo, bow, whatever. It was pretty close to $2,000.
Really?
Yeah.
And they used to have this concept of the $1,000 hunt, but you'd have to be fairly close to home to execute that, because just fuel alone.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that would be pretty Spartan. You'd be risking large degrees of discomfort.
I want to do it though. I want to take $1,000 and see if we can make it happen. You have to be first off a resident hunt, because the tags are whatever. But I would be fun to just do the $1,000 challenge and take $1,000, and you have to go outfit yourself. You got to go to the pawn shop and find a bow.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna spend $100 on arrows, which is not. You could probably get Facebook Marketplace. I don't know. I think it'd be fun to actually go kill an elk for under $1,000.
I would rather buy three $30 arrows.
Fair.
Tell how good I am at math. I think that equals 85.
3 $30 arrows? Pretty sure it's 90.
I was joking,
No.
Cody. Come on.
It's no fun when you got to explain the joke.
I think it's more fun sometimes, especially if
it depends on the individual.
Yeah.
Well,
if it's a bad joke.
James loves awkward humor. So, he likes messing with people.
Well, yeah, of
He
course.
gotcha.
Yeah. Tell me about, I don't know, give me the cliff notes on the Rich Outdoors.
The Rich
You're 400 something episodes in your podcast.
Yeah, 450 something. I don't know. 450 episodes deep. We do a hunting podcast mainly on tips and tactics. I would say the first at least 425. But there's got a wide spattering of everything you could possibly think about. We get to the point where there's so many that we need to create compilations of best elk podcasts and things like that. So we're getting ready to launch those. So if people want to check it out I'm just going to put it out there. Then I have to do it. So go to Spotify and we're going to put out some lists, top 10, stuff like that. But yeah, it's a hardcore hunting podcast where I interview people and ask them why they know more than me.
Sure. And it's not super hardcore because I've been on a bunch of times. I'm medium well core at best.
It's the try-hard crowd. Right?
But no, Cody's a good friend of mine. We've been friends for several years. And
James married me.
Yeah, I had the great honor of officiating Cody and his wife's wedding. And that was fun. So I am an official minister of some fairly bogus online church.
I was trying to think of the name of it.
I think it's the Universal Life Church. It feels like something that I should know.
Yeah. I thought there was the word spaghetti in there, though.
Well, that's the one that Kelsey wanted me to do. It was the spaghetti monster Rastafarian something or other.
Wait, so my wedding is all BS now? You weren't actually a minister of the Rastafarian spaghetti clan?
No, I think it was Yeah, I don't want to offend anybody who's religious about their Rastafarian spaghetti, but no, I think it's universal something.
Which I think is pretty common. Like if you're going to go marry your friends, that seems to me.
It's the first one that pops up on Google. Yeah, very religious.
Anyway,
and then you also have a business called Backcountry Fuel Box, which is like a shoebox full of snacks intended to be eaten on the mountainside whilst hunting or hiking or fishing. And the type of snacks in that box rotate month to month, right? So it's a subscription thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was secretly my way to always have snacks, never have to go to REI, try new stuff, all these good things. But sometimes your podcast friends just come in and eat things out of the warehouse.
Hey, I was hungry.
If your profession is giving people snacks, selling people snacks, then your buddies are going to take advantage of that.
I always say I'm like the fat kid at school that always had the good snacks. That's my profession.
Yeah. And you trade it for other stuff.
Didn't you see his eyes roll when I asked? I'm like, hey, you got any snacks around here? I didn't eat breakfast.
I know. We're literally in a warehouse full of snacks.
Yeah,
you knew the answer to the question.
I
know. We all knew.
Well, and I was fairly specific. So, I mean,
yeah.
Ben's been here before. He's like, hey, do you have any snacks in this category, in this flavor palette?
The good stuff. Top shelf meat snacks. Need some pocket meat before we do this podcast.
Hey, I've left beer in the fridge, so I don't feel bad.
No, this is true. Ben has probably brought far more alcohol to the podcast studio than he's ever drank by a long shot.
Yeah. That's a debit.
Yeah.
I don't get invited very often, so.
Okay, so the reason that I am in Montana is I was competing in the S3 sniper competition in southwest Montana that was put on by my friend Peter Howell and his shooting partner Bill Wood. And Ben, you were down there volunteering your little heart out as a range officer, which is a thankless job.
Yeah, no, it was an experience for me. I've never been to any kind of a rifle or pistol competition like that. I've seen stuff, I've seen the 3-gun stuff. I've seen videos of it, obviously photos. But to be actually there and be a part of it and be helping out, it was really cool. So
now, Cody, is Powder River still a thing?
No.
Okay, so Cody also used to own a cartridge company. So he was a professional producer of munitions.
Yeah, that was another life ago. Well, things just got so busy, we kind of put it on the back shelf, and I've sold off pieces of it. But yeah, for 2010, so 7 years-ish, ran an ammunition company.
Yeah. So what I really want to talk about today is shooting. And obviously we're coming off this weekend of a sniper competition where we're doing a lot of long-range shooting mixed in with a little bit of pistol shooting. My shooting experience is a lifetime of hunting and then 5 years in the Marine Corps, where the only types of competition that we did was the rifle qualification courses. So you're competing against Marines. Mostly you're competing against yourself. There are 3 different badges that you can receive that go on your uniforms to show your level of proficiency. So qualified and expert is something that you really want to strive to do. If you're below that with pistol or rifle, then that's nothing that a Marine really proudly wears on their chest. Marines are all about marksmanship. And then I've done a pile of archery competitions since I was old enough to pull back a bow, and then I've shot a lot of pistol competitions. But I had never shot a long-range rifle competition before. So this was all very new to me. It was completely fresh water. So I want to talk with you guys a little bit real quick just about what this competition looks like. So there were 25 stages, something like that, 24 stages, 2 days of shooting where we did about 12 stages per day, maybe a little bit less than that. And you would walk up to a stage and there would be a range officer there like Ben, and Ben would say, okay, at this stage, we have target at the bottom of the hill. Does everybody see that target? Like, yes. Okay, that's going to be the pistol target. Look down this draw. There's another target. Keep going up that draw. There's another target. And then go way up that draw, and there's another target. Everybody see the targets? And you and your partner both say yes. Okay, you've identified the targets. You now have 2 minutes to prepare. So then I bust out a rangefinder and I range the target.
Can I pause you for a second?
Sure.
Is it just your team at each stage, or are you with multiple teams at each stage?
You have a squad, so there's probably 3 teams
Roger.
at the stage, but there's just 2 of you shooting at a time, you and your partner. So now I have 2 minutes to prepare. So I pull out my rangefinder, range the target, try and get a good range on it, and sometimes that's very difficult. Maybe this target is up on a post on a skyline, and you don't know if you're hitting the target or the sagebrush behind it or the tree behind that, and it matters very much whether you're correct in that or not. So the first level of marksmanship is with your laser. And we talked about that in the Marine Corps quite a bit because we would have pilots come on and they would fire, say, a laser-guided rocket or something like that. And, they have to keep this laser pointed at the target, say it's a moving target like a vehicle, and then the rocket is just going to keep tracking towards that laser. So laser marksmanship was a thing in the Marine Corps, and now I'm doing it again.
Yeah.
It's funny, in terms of that, having worked the station and seeing the different teams come through, there were a lot of teams that just, would pull their laser rangefinder out of their bino pouch and shoot. And then you had teams that had a tripod with a plate mounted on top of it, with a spotting scope on one end of the plate, a kestrel in the middle, and a laser rangefinder mounted, fixed, hard mounted on the right.
Yeah.
So that's I didn't even think of that. So
Who was more accurate? Because that's the first thing I thought of.
For our station, the long shot of we had five different target engagements. One was a pistol that was 130 yards, but the longest one we would tell them the range.
Oh, okay.
It was 1080. And we would say, that's at 1080. So,
But just that target.
Just that target. I mean, and the other stuff, most rangefinders are going to pick that up. But you get out to those longer ranges, and a quality rangefinder is, with a strong enough laser to, hit that target and reflect back is definitely worth its weight in gold. So
the rangefinder I was using is the 2400 ABS rangefinder from SIG. So it has a little weather unit in the front of it, and it's taking temperature, pressure, giving you a density altitude solution. And the kestrel is not a bird. It's actually
it is, though.
Yeah. It's actually a weather unit that's doing the same thing, but it also has a little fan in it that you can get the wind at your location. But if you're shooting 1,080 yards, knowing the wind at your location is like
one data point.
Yeah. It's like reading the first page of the book and then trying to figure out what the rest of the book is about.
Sometimes achievable, sometimes not.
Yeah, pretty tricky. So you have 2 minutes to range these 5 targets, and then I have a little arm board like a junior high quarterback, and I get out my grease pen and I write down how many mils I need to hold above the target, and then I'm estimating the wind, and then writing down how many mils I think my wind call needs to be. But this wind is huffing and puffing, and whether it's in huff mode or puff mode matters very much for where this bullet's going to end up. So I just write down the median of what I think the wind is doing, and then I make calls once I'm in the scope based on that. 2 minutes goes by really quickly, and there were some stages where I did not get all my ranges done in time. And when that happened, that meant that the range that I didn't get done in time was the long one because I started close, and I think that was a tactical error the first time. So anyways, 2 minutes is up, and they say, all right, you guys have 5 minutes to complete the course. So you start with a magazine in your rifle, bolt back, and you start shooting. On Ben's course, talk us through what that course of fire was like.
So first target, pistol target. It was an IPSC shaped target.
Which IPSC is like a little human silhouette from the waist up.
134 yards, probably at a 30-degree angle downhill, and you're shooting 10 rounds, and there's 2 scorable hits per shooter. And speed is a factor. So from the first pistol report is when we would start the time, and it was a 5-minute station. So 10 rounds or 2 impacts, whatever you're done with first, and then the second shooter of the team would go. And then our second engagement was a 330-yard, 10-inch steel gong over a ridge in an adjacent draw. So again, that distance, not a lot of wind, but for some of the smaller calibers, if there was a good gust of wind going, it may change things. Our third target was like a 525-yard 10-inch gong on a steel plate that was up that same draw that the first target was in, but further up. Our fourth target was a 1,080-yard IPSC, and that was at the head end of the draw, so you're shooting over two draws that come across at about a 45-degree angle. So again, like you say, first page of the book, where you're shooting from, but the wind's doing all kinds of funky stuff. And that draw actually kind of continued up to the left, and then it opened up. So you got to think any wind coming from that direction is going to funnel down and probably increase in velocity. So we had a lot of misses just to the right, a lot of miscalculations based on wind on the 525 and the 1080 to the right because of the wind. And then the fifth target engagement was back to the 135-yard close range target compared to the others, but it was offhand with your rifle. And all four of the rifle targets were 3 shots per shooter looking for 1 impact. So if you impacted on your first shot and your partner impacted, you'd only shoot 1 at each target. So, and time was a factor. With the 5 minutes, we had several people that timed out before they even were standing because they were trying to dial in on the gongs. So it was kind of a unique stage, I think, because of the offhand. I think a lot of these guys weren't used to any offhand shooting. And then the long-range pistol also kind of threw them for a little bit of a loop. So, because that's a poke with any kind of pistol.
Especially the 9mm.
Yep.
What were most guys carrying on?
Most of it was 9. There were a few 45s.
Couple 22s.
Yep, some 22s, some guys shooting. Yeah, that was hard to. I mean, we had to be on the target. Like you're looking for bullet splatter, not a ring on the gong. So.
What are you using 5.7?
We had actually a couple guys with NFs too.
Oh, did you? Dude, 130 on that NF's not.
Yeah,
but it's still a pistol.
Yeah. Yep. Oh yeah.
Offhand shot with a pistol at 130 yards is a trick.
But a pistol that's rifled and going 1,900 feet per second is a little bit flatter shooting than.
Oh, for sure.
Your 9mm.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, a 9mm is definitely starting to unravel and turn into a corkscrew at 130 yards. Yeah. And if you guys ever have the chance to shoot at 100 or 200 yards with a pistol, I recommend you try and find a situation where it's sunny and the sun's behind you because you can see that bullet. And at 200 yards, that corkscrew is like a 5-foot circle, and it's like, oh man. And I think if you hit something at that range, it's because that target was born to be hit. So my experience, Ben, on your course, and you'd brought your son out to the range, which was really cool. He's a neat kid. He's a complete wild man.
Yeah.
3.5 years old. He was having just the time of his life. So you were off helping your son with something when I shot. But I shot the pistol target twice out of 10 shots, which I felt very good about. Mm-hmm. And I actually ran your course without missing a rifle shot, and that was probably that 1,080-yard shot is one of the better shots that I've ever made. But I'd written down all my data, and then my partner Weston and I were going back and forth, shooting each target consecutively. Weston shot before me, so I had the advantage. He did miss a couple targets, but I had the advantage of seeing how he missed and getting to talk with him, be like, how much wind were you holding on that shot, etc. So then, right after he shot, I would shoot, as quickly as possible, as soon as he could get back on the scope to be able to spot my shot, so that I'd be trying to capture the same wind condition that he was just shooting in. And when it got out to that 1,080-yard shot, I was holding 13.1 mils high and 8 mils to the left. So
you were shooting 308, right?
I was shooting 308. So I was shooting the cross rifle from SIG in 308, and I was shooting SIG factory ammo, their match factory ammo, which was very accurate, 168 grain. It had 6 feet per second of standard deviation. So the difference in velocity from one shot to the next was minuscule. very, very accurate. But it's out of a 16-inch barrel. This is a little gun. I have it on my motorcycle. It's a beautiful gun for a motorcycle, but it's a little gun. Anyways, most of the guns out there were insane. Like, there's a lot of $10,000 rifles on the course. There's a lot of $5,000 optics on the course. And I don't think very many people were shooting factory ammunition. So, I was going full SIG on this, and I really wanted to see what I could do with this stock factory situation. And I feel really good about it. Like, I feel like I did really well. But that shot, when I'm talking about 13 mils high and 8 mils to the right, that was like 45 feet of bullet drop and 26 feet of wind drift.
Dude, that's insane. And a first-round hit.
And like belly button on this target. Like, smoked it. And there's guys that dropped very few shots over the course of 2 days on targets that were a lot farther. And in a 40-mile-an-hour windstorm, I watched this kid put 2 out of 3 shots on a 1,400-yard target.
Jeez.
I think they were. I heard him say he was calibrating 27 mile per hour crosswind.
Wow.
It was coming at us.
Yeah.
More than it was going across. You were standing there. We were watching, and this young gentleman, first round smoked it, second round smoked it, third round just hit a little bit right. And I'm not sure. I think they were 30-inch. Were they 30-inch?
I think they're 24-inch diamond.
24-inch, okay.
And a diamond-shaped target is so deceptive. There are a lot of ways to miss that target. Yeah. But yeah, it was blowing hard enough that when Ben and I would stand up, it would move us around. You couldn't just stand still.
Yep.
Ooh.
And he just laid down and laced it twice. I was like, wow. Amazing. Damn. So some of the best rifle shooting I've ever seen and some of the worst pistol shooting that I've ever seen.
Trust me, there were a lot of guys that missed that pistol target. So,
yeah.
I mean, if you rung that one twice, like I said, I wasn't there to watch you.
Missing a 130-yard pistol target, like I wouldn't have felt bad if I would have shanked 10 in a row. Like, whatever. That's not what this pistol was born to do.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of like 20-yard pistol targets that dudes were burning up, 8 or 10 rounds on to get their 2 hits. It's like, what are we doing here? Like, I know you're going to lay down and smoke this thing at 1,490 yards, but this 20-yard pistol target is just beyond you. So it's just interesting. And then when it came to the offhand shot on your course of fire, like, it's a 130-yard offhand shot, and I've got this little rifle that's very convenient for it. But these guys that are packing a 24-pound ray gun, it's like, yeah, you better have a beefy left arm if you want to make that happen.
Yeah.
It really, I mean, I felt like our station, not having been to one, I felt like people were like looking at you crazy when you told them what you had. This is an offhand shot that you can't use any your partner for. This, you can't use a bipod, you can't use anything. And they're like, what?
Could you kneel? You had to be standing.
You don't have to be standing. And they were like, man, you guys, I hate you guys. It was stuff like that.
It's a 130-yard shot, though.
I know. I mean, and the thing is what it brought into it was, okay, you shoot your way out, and some of these guys were dialing for elevation. And, I mean, we had a guy pull up, shot, couldn't, he had his scope cranked, he didn't dial it back, and he didn't dial his turret back to 0. So he shot, he wasn't seeing impact, and he put, 3, he did 3 bullet splashes in the same spot.
Yeah, 30 feet above the target.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I'm there with binoculars, and I can see it, and I'm like, and I'm like, he must be dialed up, and sure enough, I'm like, yeah, you see that white rock like up on the hill? I'm like, you hit right next to that all 3 times.
Good grouping, though.
Yeah. So, and he's like, oh, I mean, it really, guys get in the rush of chasing that 5-minute time limit on that station, and you kind of don't think of it. So, and
it's pretty realistic, though.
Yeah.
In a hunting situation. It was funny because I've been to a lot of the national, state, all the cowboy action shoots over the years because that's what we did. And you throw that like wrench in one of the stations because these guys, they shoot the same style, the same thing. It gets very repetitive for them. And so like a lot of the national shoots, they'll do something really goofy. And there's like the segment of people that get really pissed off about it because this is not how they do it. This is not how, a national cowboy action shoot is supposed to be. And then there's the guys that are like, oh, that seems fun. Like it gets split right down the middle, and guys get pissed because it's like, but it's usually the guys that are like very proficient at their lane. Like they could run their lane like no other. And then you throw that wrench in there and it's like, the guy that doesn't dial down. That's an easy shot, right? Like it's not hard. But when's the last time he ever dialed down from a 1080 to a 130, and made that shot standing? Probably never.
And that's exactly it. That's what, it was one of those situations where it took those guys, it took brains to put all that together. It doesn't matter how much you spend on your equipment. Mm-hmm. It's a mistake that you need to.
And you put a time clock in there, and like those mistakes get amplified.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. But that's like we were talking before the podcast. Like those are hunting situations where that's what makes hunting hard. Hunting isn't like it's a 400-yard prone shot on a standing broadside animal. At the range, that's easy. Put the time factor in there, all the other conditions, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I forgot to take my scope covers off, or something dumb.
Yeah, and it's so easy, and guys get excited, and when you're excited, your rational thought goes away because there's a deeper part of your psyche that has now taken the steering wheel. Mm-hmm. So I've seen guys who ejected every single shell in their gun without firing any of them. And they thought that they were shooting, but they'd run the bolt and then run the bolt and then run the bolt and never hit the trigger and be like, he got away. Sure did.
Was this Stuart?
It sounds, like it's possible, but it's super interesting. Cody, you've done some long range shooting of an older style, right? You shoot sharps.
Yeah.
45-70.
45-70 sharps, yeah. And we were talking like I should have taken the sharps up there, and it'd be really fun to shoot a course like that. So the sharps, very capable at that range. Most people are really blown away that you shoot over 500 yards with the sharps.
What is a sharps?
So a sharps is the original long rifle, so to speak. It's one of the first. It was very popularized by the buffalo hunts of the West.
Right at the end of the Civil War.
Yeah, right at the end of the Civil War, it kind of became popular. That's what made it was the buffalo hunts. It could take down a buffalo, and guys were able to shoot very long range. Guys were also able to, during a lot of the Indian conflicts, shoot a long ways. Things like this is kind of where that long range shooting started, so to speak. Was buffalo hunting and the Indian conflicts. So mine is a 30-inch barrel, so it's very long. Shoots a straight-walled cartridge, mostly. A lot of the era-specific cartridges were all black powder, obviously. The 45-70 became popular because that was kind of a government issue. You get into the politics of why that became more popular. There's the 45-120, 45-110s, like all these different calibers, 50.
And the 45 is the caliber of the bullet, and 70 is the number of grains of black powder.
Correct.
Grains being a measurement of weight.
Correct. And so like back in those days, that's how they used cartridges, was basically like, hey, this is a 45 caliber bullet with 75 grains of black powder. Reloading was pretty common, like in the field reloading was pretty common in those days.
Right, 30-30,
yeah.
30-40 Craig.
Correct.
Same
Correct.
game.
So a lot of those things stuck throughout the years, even though we use smokeless now. So a lot of the, 40, like the sharps, if you will, the Quigley gun, also popularized by the movie, and he shoots a bucket at like 1,200 yards. I think they figured out, which is very doable. A lot of those competitions go out to 1,000 yards, but a lot of them are, they're laying in the prone or seated. They're shooting silhouette targets, usually known distance. There's different competitions throughout Montana, but as far as I know, not very many people are doing like a sniper style where it's like multiple positions, multiple variant in ranges and all these things. So I think it'd be a blast to go up and shoot it like that.
It would. It would be super fun. And it would be neat to incorporate some of this newer range-finding technology with this very old rifle technology.
And I'm all about that because I will say trad gun shooters are kind of like trad bow hunters. They get very like opinionated. You know, this is like, we have to do it this old school way. So
and then they end up buying beef from me at the end of the hunting season.
Exactly. Exactly. But, you know, so people within the sharps world are very like old school. I think it'd be a blast to go, you know, because we were talking about like my veneer sight has mill right on it. So we could run a rangefinder and you could be like, all right, hold 26 mils and I'm dialing to 26 mils.
Click.
In fact,
What's the velocity? Out of curiosity.
Smell.
yeah,
speed of
you have to go
smell.
off. Depends. So, and this is like, okay, so when my hunting cartridge that I run for sharps, and this is like very anti that community, but the FTX bullet has much higher BC than a lot of these like 500 grain lead bullets. The FTX is designed to run in a shorter case. So if you go buy factory FTX ammo, an FTX for people who are listening, like it's a copper jacketed bullet with a polymer tip, much like you would see in most of your rifles. And because of that polymer tip, when Hornady designed that, they had to shorten the case, shorten the OAL, so that it could be fed in a magazine or in a tubular
length.
Overall length. And so I just started loading up full length, full hot, and I want to say I'm running 21, 22, maybe even 2,300 feet per second.
Woo, that's cooking.
Yeah. So
Is that the one you're going to borrow me?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Ben's got a buffalo hunt, but I feel like you can't use an FTX bullet on that hunt.
Well, I think
Yes, you
I think
can.
I think the problem is going to be finding one. That's
Not
the
shooting
only
it.
thing.
Yeah. I think everyone gets romantic about how they're going to shoot that buffalo,
Yeah.
and then they realize like, oh, I got to find one first.
Yeah, exactly. So
But so back to that, if you had some modern technology, it'd be really fun. It'd be fun anyway. But
So are you going to put a Picatinny rail on the bottom of the thing and mount an Atlas bipod onto it?
I don't know.
Like, where do you draw the line? Or do you have, like, you know,
don't know, where
the
is the
deer
line?
hoof bipod?
No, we're not doing deer hoof bipod. We're gonna have a Spartan Precision like bipod lay down.
Because there's a
Can you
fun...
put
When you start shooting... you know, these older school guns, it can turn into reenactors pretty quick. And before you know
Totally.
it, you're wearing a buckskin diaper.
Yeah.
And, you know, running around trying to trade pemican for a range on that target.
he's rocking fringe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, dude. Okay, so when I did an elk hunt with my sharps, 2016, and people like commented
with me.
Yeah, you were there, and people commented. The year before that, when I shot that bull in the snake.
Oh, yeah.
And I was using FTX bullets. On yours, we used the lead bullets on
Yeah.
that one. But people were like, "Oh, you know, it's non-traditional." Like, well, I also didn't wear leathers. You know, like,
Yeah.
I don't have to go full out. I just like using the gun.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly fine with high quality gear. And
Also
a
have a
rangefinder.
phone with satellite imagery coming to me from outer frickin' space. Come on.
Oh, and my dope charts.
Yeah.
Like everything's still in a ballistic calculator.
Yeah.
Like I'm not trying to wing it.
Yeah,
but-
Elon Musk's chief engineer helped me with this vicariously.
I don't know. Is that stupid though to like use this old school rifle and then also apps to control the elevation?
You wonder, versus today's society and back then, the mountain men that were out trapping and living in the mountains, basically living off what they could hunt and gather. The different tools and things that they always had on them. You wonder if people then look at those, the people that lived in town looked at those people kind of like how, like you go to one of these matches and guys have these giant waist belts with all these pockets, and it's kind of like the same.
I had 16 pockets in my pants.
Yeah, he found one when we were talking there. I'm like, how many pockets do those pants have?
I had the most tactical pants on the course, hands down.
But you wonder if from a time frame, if back then people looked at those mountain men that had all those very specific tools, kind of similarly how we look at like the technical aspect of things today, as technology has advanced and stuff like
Well, I
that.
guarantee every one of those buffalo hunters would have had a fancy SIG rangefinder if they could have one.
Well, absolutely, but I mean, right now, all the guys shooting the PRS stuff have, ridiculous equipment, and it's the same back then. Those guys that were out there doing that.
Tim Butler, who's a Marine and one of the chief engineers for SIG for pistols, he and I were on an elk hunt together last fall in Colorado, and we were talking about modern versus traditional and kind of what that meant. And where do you draw the line with technology? And these are big questions to wrestle with. And Tim's take on it was that, Tim's an older guy. He's a Desert Storm guy. He's like, look, my dad used a bolt-action 30-06 because that was the best thing that was available then. And we should use the best thing that's available now. And when it comes to hunting and an animal's life, there's no gambling.
Yeah.
Like, I don't take maybe shots. And I was thinking about this earlier today because when you're riding a motorcycle, you get a lot of time to think about stuff. So I was thinking about this earlier today, and I've taken a bunch of shots on animals in the field that I should not have taken, that I didn't have any business shooting that far.
Yeah.
And the more I shoot and the more conditions I shoot in, the more I realize how many factors go into where that bullet ends up and how few of those I used to account for. And I got lucky a bunch of times. But I'm just at a point where I don't want to do that. I don't want to gamble. If I take a shot, it needs to be the surest possible bet. If I am up against the wall and there's a dude on the other end and he's the firing squad, I want him having the best stuff out there. I don't want a maybe.
I think that's a natural progression, though. I mean, I remember when in terms of hunting, it's looking at that in a similar fashion, where every time I found an animal that I wanted to, that I'm like, okay, I'm going to stalk it. I don't care how hard that stalk is. I'm going to go in. And now I sit up on the hill and I glass. I find an animal and I'm like, I start to pick the terrain apart. I'm like, that's a low percentage stalk. I'm not even going to try.
Yeah, you've got that backcountry fuel pocket meat.
That's right.
You can be happy on top of it.
Definitely. But I tell you, I can be fat and still kill stuff. It's
amen, brother. Amen.
I feel like that progression happens. Some people it happens much earlier. Some people it happens. But, it's all based on the number of experiences that you have. I think you start to kind of, from an energy expenditure standpoint, I think you learn. And I can agree with that. In the same sense. I was just talking to a buddy of mine. When I first started Western hunting, it was in the Badlands of North Dakota. And I lived in Minnesota. And we were talking about, like, our first year out there chasing mule deer, like, shooting further than we should have, and it's like, well, sooner or later I'm going to hit one of these things and then we'll figure it out from there. And now it's like, nah, I'll wait for my opportunity. It changes how you look at it. So I think that's just, comes with experience and stuff like that. But I definitely agree with that statement.
And there's this interesting problem with marksmanship on animals where a sure hit, a lethal hit, is the goal.
Mm-hmm.
And then people can take a degree of comfort in a complete miss because they haven't wounded that animal. But that's a bigger miss than a wound.
Mm-hmm.
So if you completely shank an animal, while you can feel morally comfortable that you didn't wound an animal, you need to do a radical reset on your shooting because that was a big miss, and you've got a lot of ground to cover to get through that wounding zone of accuracy before you can get back to 100% lethality.
Well, you may feel better about your moral compass that you did miss, but you should feel less about your moral compass because you took a shot so bad that you airballed it.
Yep.
It's like stand up in the middle of a game and you airball a 3. Are you like, wow, I'm really glad it didn't even hit the rim? Or are you like, wow, I'm an idiot. Like, well, I had no business taking that shot, or what happened there?
Right. I should get closer next time.
I should get closer. Maybe layups are my thing, I don't know. What's your thought on follow-up shots? This is something that's occurred within the sphere, a couple times in the last, let's just say, year. People tend to, they shoot an animal, like, oh, he's going down, don't shoot again. Depending on the animal, I guess, but for the most part, if I shoot an elk with a rifle or a bear with a rifle, given my experience, I tend to shoot until it stops. I am confident that MFR is not going anywhere because I've seen too many get away. And it's like, what's more ethical? wasting, let's say, 1 pound of meat. We can say 2.5, or an animal getting away wounded and not finding it.
I'm going back to that firing squad, even if it's dying. Like, if this thing's getting all wobbly and completely losing cabin pressure and going down, if my bullet can get there first and I can end that animal's life and pain faster, I'm going to do it. If I'm up against the wall in that firing squad and somebody wings me through one lung and his buddy goes, not, save your bullet.
He's done.
He's going down in any minute now. Like, no, keep shooting.
Headshots.
Keep shooting. Bring it on. Pour the coals to it. So, and I really do think of it in terms of like how I would want to die in that situation. If death is certain, let's make it imminent as possible. And
quick and painless.
Yeah, I've seen elk. One of the scariest things for me as a guide is when I see an elk get hit and then just pancake.
Oh, yeah.
Because that is an animal that can get up and vanish and leave like 3 drops of blood and no tracks.
Yep.
And I think it varies too. I mean, a bull I killed a couple years ago, I shot at it was a good shot. It was a little low. He circled up around and stopped, within what I shoot targets at, not what I would take an initial shot at. And he stood there and he looked the other way. He wasn't looking at me. I thought, okay, I'm going to shoot him again. And I shot again and I hit him in the same spot as the first shot. And that time I got a reaction and he ran up the hill and stopped. And he didn't die initially. I mean, it was a low vital hit where it was lung, where basically the blood was able to drain out of his lungs. It didn't fill his lungs up. Mm-hmm. And all the cows, he had like 30, 40 cows, and there were a couple small bulls, didn't know what happened. And they just kind of milled around. They kind of grouped up into a little, tight group and kind of stood around and were looking all over the place. And the bull went up and he initially laid down and then he stood back up after about, probably 30 seconds laying down. And what I came to the conclusion of is when he laid down, he compressed, the diaphragm, and it was impeding his breathing. So he stood up and was able to actually get a little bit of airflow through his lungs. And the cows hung around long enough. It was in the evening that I couldn't stalk back in for another shot. But the key is he didn't know what happened. He just all of a sudden had trouble breathing. And that's like the only situation when he's out of any kind of range. I think he was at like 180 yards or 200 yards. And obviously with the archery equipment, I'm not going to shoot that. I mean, that's like all you're going to do is scare him. Yeah. And he's going to run off. And I waited for those cows. They eventually, the smaller bulls that were with the herd, pushed him off. And he was standing there, and my approach didn't offer a shot because he was facing directly on with head down, and I could hear him breathing. Like, I could hear he had trouble breathing, and it was, not the way you want it to happen, but it's like you don't want to force it to the point of, because if I would have bumped him, he could have gone, 3 miles.
Well, archery is a little bit different scenario where you're playing this game of not spooking him, because you shoot a bull perfectly and he stands there. You almost don't shoot him again. Are you watching? If you can see him bleeding, say a frontal shot, and he's just pouring blood, don't move. Like, he's gonna. Yep. If I'm watching blood come out, I'm probably like,
If he's keyed in on you, absolutely not. Yeah.
It just depends on the situation. But I feel like with a rifle, it's like the bang went off, the adrenaline went through the roof. Just keep shooting until it stops moving.
Yep.
Like, that's my philosophy.
And
maybe I'm wrong.
And use a suppressor.
That's true, too.
That makes a big difference in keeping those animals calm. They have a lot harder time knowing where that shot came from. And if you do need a follow-up shot, a suppressor makes a world of difference. Or if you have multiple hunters there and you have multiple animals to shoot at, a suppressor is going to give everybody a better opportunity.
So this is across the table. I'm now considering a suppressor. And everyone, Rick and I...
Sharps?
Yes. Is that legit? Can I do that?
I'm good with it.
They make them.
Do they?
Yeah.
I'm excited.
They make. I've shot a suppressed 45-70.
Really?
Yeah.
Like a Marlin?
Yep. Lever gun.
I've seen a lot of those.
It was impressive. I mean,
apparently tactical Marlin 1895s is like a thing now.
Yeah, it was a tactical out.
I did that to mine before it was cool.
He started it,
which makes it less cool. So I have a Picatinny rail inside of mine that I can mount a flashlight on.
Yep.
I have a Picatinny rail on top that I have an intermediate eye relief scope that I can tip on or off. I've got a big loop lever on there. But that's my gun for when
brush gun.
Somebody wounds a bear. And they're like, hey, guide, I wounded a bear. I think he went that way into that super thick stuff, and now it's dark.
Fetch him up.
I'm on it. It's worst case scenario as a guide, and it's happened to me several times.
Yeah.
But in that case, I need light, I need speed, and the same amount of energy as a lead brick thrown by Randy Johnson.
Yep.
Okay, back to the suppressor thing, because considering this, everyone I know who started hunting with a suppressor, no one's been like, yeah, suppressors are okay, but I'm not going to hunt with them.
Yeah.
It still hasn't happened, so I'm assuming that they're good.
Yeah. Game changer.
Do you get over the fact that you're carrying around like an 8-foot 2x4 with you in the woods everywhere you go?
Yeah.
No.
My gun has a suppressor. I mean, I'm an archery guy, and up until 2 years ago, I basically had like an AR that I was using. In Montana, it's legal to hunt with big game with a .223, and I got into some situations on some mule deers on late hunts where it was like kind of quartering towards, and I passed on the shot because what I had. And it's like, all right, it's time to get a gun. And the last 2 years I've hunted with a suppressed 300 Win, and it's ridiculous. It's amazing. It's so much more fun to shoot. You go to the range with a 300 and you're on a table and the guy next to you has a braked 300.
That's me.
And it's like
uncivilized. Uncivilized.
Your contact gets knocked out every time he shoots his gun, from 4 feet away.
In a filling.
Yeah.
Get a nosebleed. Dude.
It's like shooting the Barrett.
If I'm shooting just for fun, just for me, I don't even use hearing protection.
Here's the problem with a suppressor, and this is real, is it will turn you into a sissy, and you won't want to shoot a gun without it. And that's a legit problem. Like, you don't know how good you have it right now. And then you're going to get a can. You're like, wow, this is significantly better. Now I don't want to shoot this other stuff anymore.
Yeah, be prepared to overhaul your gun
entire
safe. Yeah.
Well, and that's why someone told me buy a 30 cal suppressor that can handle the 30 HCA, and then just put it on a 6.5 or 6 whatever you're going to do, because the difference in the having them, like just being able to swap it over, is very negligible. I don't know, I've never used them, but
it's like a tone difference. It's not really a decibel difference, at least not noticeable. So I've shot 30 cal cans on 223s and it works great.
Yeah. Frick, I want one now.
Yeah, you got to do it, and just get after it, because it's a wait. You've got to wait 6 to 10 months, but
which everyone doesn't do, because I'm not doing it because it's an 11-month wait. But you're going to wait 11 months anyway.
Right.
When you finally decide to do it, it's still going to be the same wait.
And people will deliberate about it for that entire 11-month period.
Yeah, I've been deliberating about it for about 5-6 years now. So I'm not doing that 11-month wait. I'll wait 6 years until they change it.
Yeah, exactly. Just do it. I don't think you'll regret it. But like this cross, it's a 16-inch barrel. It's a folding stock. So when I fold that stock, that gun's only 2 feet long.
Dude, that's a sheep gun right there.
And I can just throw it in a pocket in my pack. I hate slings. I despise slings. So being able to put my gun in my pack is a beautiful thing. So then when I add 6 inches of can to it, who cares?
Yeah, that's true.
Who cares?
Yeah. The other thing, and this is a very Bozeman problem. Like every time I go spring bear hunting, I swear to God, there's like a bunch of yuppie people like hiking, and I always I carry a very big gun anyway, so I feel like that person that's like,
you're hunting in the wrong areas.
Yeah, well,
you got to quit going up Sipes Canyon, man. There's no bears up there.
Well, and on the same note, like say you are sharing a multi-use area, you don't want to have a Thor's hammer thunderboom throughout the entire canyon when you shoot. If you just go poof. And, it's still a loud report, but it's not, it doesn't go as far. It doesn't bother as many people. It doesn't displace as much wildlife. There's really no disadvantage to it. It is insane that they're still listed the way they are.
It's really,
wait for this tax stamp.
Really polite.
Yeah.
It's a polite thing to do. It's a civilized.
You go, I mean, and I've heard this, and James, you might be able to, have experience or knowledge of this, but I guess in European countries, it's like impolite to shoot a gun without a
A
suppressor.
lot of places they're required. New Zealand, you cannot own a pistol. You can buy a can at a hardware store.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm putting one on the sharps.
Do it. Let's make it 36 inches long. Why not?
I want to show up that shoot with like full tactical sharps.
Yeah. So instead of a bipod, you're gonna have like a little red wagon with your
It's amazing.
I'd love it.
So, what hunting lessons did you take away from the shoot this weekend?
Some of the biggest lessons I took away are that if you intend to stretch out range in a hunting scenario, and that's a very popular thing to do, and some guys are very good at it. Some guys have gotten lucky at it, like I have in the past. I want you to go out and shoot in adverse weather conditions to practice. So if it's snowing, if it's raining, if it's cold as hell, if it's blowing really hard, especially if you've got like a good thunderstorm wind that's switching directions, go shoot in it. Like if it's 68 degrees and sunny and there's no wind, yeah, you can be a hero on the range and feel really good about your hits. But what are you really learning?
Yeah.
And while we can use a Kestrel to know our wind at the station, the skill you need to develop is understanding how wind is moving through terrain, understanding what 15-mile-an-hour wind versus 10-mile-per-hour wind looks like when it's hitting a tree at 400 yards, looking at grass on a side hill and seeing which direction it's moving. Is that wind fanning out? Understanding what lift does to a bullet. And that was something that I need to apologize to people for, because previously I've heard people talk about lift when going uphill, thermal wind. And I've said, no, no. But the way a lot of people explain it is that it's causing your bullet to rise. That's incorrect. It's causing your bullet to not fall as fast as you previously predicted. So if you have 5-mile-an-hour wind going up a 30-degree slope, you have a quarter value crosswind effect on your bullet. So it's not going to descend as quickly because as wind pushing it up, the same way that wind can push it down. If you have a facing wind coming towards you, coming over the top of a canyon, that wind's going to be coming down and forcing your bullet down a little bit faster. So you need to understand that there's so much that goes into this shot. And even the pressure you're putting on your gun on a really long distance shot. If you're gripping your forend too much, or you're putting torque on your pistol grip, or squeezing your pistol grip, or your rear bag is different, all that stuff is going to make a big difference. So one thing that hunters can really take away from this precision shooting community that they're not doing right now, two ways of supporting your gun. One is shooting off of a tripod. So all these guys are carrying tripods, every single one of them. And they have an ARCA rail on their gun. Now, an ARCA is a type of rail that mounts onto the head of a tripod. And you can get an ARCA adapter to go on your binoculars, on your spotting scope, on your camera, and on your gun. And you're probably carrying a tripod anyways. A tripod is better than a bipod. A lot better. And you can take a leg off of most tripods and turn it into a bipod if that's a situation that you require. So think about mounting an ARCA rail onto your rifle and then utilizing your tripod, because bipods tend to be fairly ineffective in most hunting situations, because when you get that close to the ground, you're probably shooting through brush. Mm-hmm. And if you shoot through brush on your side of the target, it is going to have a big impact on your bullet downrange, even just shooting through a little bit of grass.
Especially at 500-700 yards.
For sure. So learn how to shoot off of a tripod. It's a small investment to get an ARCA rail to put on your gun.
Did you do most of your shooting off a tripod in a seated position or in a prone position?
Standing.
Oh, really?
Yep. Yep. And when you do it, you have one leg facing you to help absorb recoil, and you step on that leg to anchor that down into the ground. Mm-hmm. So learn how to shoot off of a tripod, watch some YouTube videos, figure it out. But if you can mount an ARCA rail onto your gun, think about doing that, and then just switch out ARCA rails for your other optics and stuff that you bring with you. And then you can get more use out of that tripod that you're probably bringing with you anyways.
Yeah.
The other thing is a rear bag. So all these guys bring a bag. Most of them are sandbags or some type of other heavy medium that they're putting underneath their buttstock. So when they're shooting in the prone, their gun is resting on the bipod in front and then on the rear bag in the back. And you can manipulate that bag by squeezing it, squishing it around. And then you're not putting hardly any pressure on the gun besides with your cheek. And then you can get it into good position, and that gun is very steady. So if you're trying to break that 1,080-yard shot, you don't want to be holding the gun with your muscles. You want it connected to the earth as much as possible because the earth is a lot steadier than we are. Now, there's companies out there like Paladin that make lightweight rear bags that are just made out of little balls of foam and stuff like that. You know, you can get a rear bag that weighs less than a pound, and that's your pillow at night, which is nice to have, and it's your rear bag during the day. You know, this is something that should probably be in your pack if you're planning on taking this shot.
Or, I mean, what I used last year, I used sleeping bag, I've used puffy jacket, like, it's just anything that'll, like, fit right there underneath. Yeah. Practice shooting with a dry bag full of some rain gear or whatever. Learn
how to be supported. You know, if you're taking a sitting or a kneeling shot, put your pack on your thigh and the top of it underneath your armpit, and find a way to support your body so that you can get steady.
Yep.
But learn how these precision shooters are finding steadiness, and then find ways that you can apply that to your hunting situation. And learn wind, because what I'm telling you about going out and shooting in windy conditions isn't so much that I want you to learn how to do it. It's so that you can learn how freaking difficult it is.
Especially in canyon territory. I'll never forget when long range hunting first kind of became popular or whatever. There's these dudes that came in to one of the places we hunt, and they had these 1,000-yard guns or whatever. So they're going to prop up on this middle point, and we call it Sniper Ridge. And they could shoot anything in this canyon. And those cats, they had their laptop out. I don't know how long ago this was, because it was like laptop days. The laptop's way back in the backcountry, and they're like putting in data and launched off at least a box and a half of ammo on opening morning and never touched a thing. Right. And it was like the wind you can't predict in those canyons. You're like, if you cross two canyons, it's like wind's going this way, swirling this way, and it changes a lot.
Yep.
Especially in big mountains. So,
the great skill, and one of, I think the core skills of hunting is stalking. And stalking is a lot of fun. It's very challenging. You have to get creative. You have to be precise in the way you do it. You learn a lot about terrain and vegetation and animals and wind in that process. So, help yourself develop that too. And you want to get closer, because a closer shot is easier shot to make.
Do you think factory ammo is doable these days?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the things I was able to pull off this weekend were remarkable with factory ammo and a factory gun. A bunch of people have been asking me how this shoot went, and I described it as me racing a Ford Mustang in a Formula One race. And Ford Mustang's a hell of a car, right? But Formula One is like a thing unto itself.
Yeah.
But with the gun that I had, I was able to put pressure on these guys that are professional shooters. That's all that they do. And they're very experienced at this. It was really uplifting for me to have that positive experience.
Dude, I think factory ammo's come a long ways. And I would argue that like some factory ammo is better than some reloaders.
I'd like to see them. I know at some shoots they add like a production class.
Yeah, like a stock car.
Yeah.
Dude, that does change it. Like, I don't know. Like, I would say factory ammo's come quite a ways in the last.
Well, no. I mean, what I'm saying is like, okay, so everybody has these kitted out guns. I mean, like we were talking, $10,000 into one of these rifles is probably. I mean, people don't bat an eye at that. But what if you added a production class that was factory ammunition,
factory rifles,
and factory rifles? That'd be
fun.
So, and that would put a platform in there for like an average guy to feel like he did good. And I bet you if you compared yourself to anybody else shooting production equipment, I mean, I mean, a scope only does so good. You're only so good with a scope.
Yeah.
But the rifle, I think, is where the significant advantage, and the scope's only doing as good as the user is using it.
Yeah. I'm really interested in putting together a shoot that is a total archery challenge style shoot with animal shaped silhouettes that have swinging kill zones, add the element of hiking, and add the element of spotting your targets. Mm-hmm. And put some time constraints and some mandatory shooting positions on there, and then make it be a gun that people can buy, and that the hunters are using. I would love to see something.
I would think that this would take hunting to the level it needs to be on the shooting capacity, because so many dudes go out, sight their gun in, prone position at the range or off a bench. They only shoot off a bench or bench rest, and then they go out in the field and they're like, I can't shoot standing up.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
What are all these bushes in my way for? I mean, come on.
I always bring up ants because one of the times that I was hunting buffalo in Africa, I was pegged down by like 300 buffalo at 150 yards, and they were just in this big mass, and I was waiting for a bull to get clear, and I had big, mean African ants crawling inside of my clothes, gnawing on me. And I was scared.
You stand up in that situation, the whole herd comes at you.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could be the stuff between a buffalo's toes really quickly. And one of these courses of fire had a prone position that was in an anthill, and I was like, I've done this before. I've had this experience.
Did it really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I saw it, and I was like, Weston, why don't you shoot from this one? I'm going to go over here.
And was it intentional, or
You never know with a guy like Peter Howell.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you
That's
never
true.
know.
If you do the hunter marksmanship course, whatever you want to call it, you need to do a charging grizzly bear target too.
That'd be a good pistol target.
Yeah.
So let's talk bear guns real quick, and that'll be what we ended on. So, yep, bear spray, check. In this world, we're also going to carry a pistol. Let's say it's going to be a semi-automatic. What features are you looking for in that gun?
You asked me this question before, and I'm terrible at answering it because I'm really bad at saying, here's how you should design the thing that would be better than the thing I have. I'm really good at, this is what I have and works, and not so good at inventing it for some reason. But having said that, lightweight, I don't know. We had this argument about lightweight versus full size versus compact. Like that. Start shooting let's just say 10 mil, for example. Start shooting a 10 mil with a compact frame and see how accurate you are. Very few people are accurate with that. But I do feel like when you pack a pistol around miles and miles a day, it gets heavy, and heavier by the day for some reason.
And another consideration is mag capacity. You get one of these double stack mags in a 10 mm. Doesn't matter how light it is, you fill it up with
220 grain bullets, and all of a sudden it's like 14 pounds.
Yeah.
It's a boat anchor. I don't know. I would like the ability, laser grip. I don't know. Ben, what do you got?
I've got two guns, two bear guns. They're both 10M, or well, one's a 10M. My semi-auto's a 10M. It's a SIG Match Elite. It's pretty fancy to use as bear protection. But I'm very accurate with it. Very accurate with it. It's a full size, and it's got double action, which is obviously preferred and much safer. And then my other gun is a Smith & Wesson 329 PD. You know, it's got the titanium frame, the scandium cylinder, fewer shots. It is a 44 mag, so it's got more punch. Mm-hmm. And that gun is terrible to shoot because it's so light.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you put like a 45 Colt through it, just for fun, I think that's what it is. Again,
I'm confused right now.
So they make like a really light like a
44 special.
44 special. That's what it is. Sorry,
it's confused.
So
45 Colt through a 44 mag.
44
Please
special. Yes. I mean, shooting that gun with that is fun. Mm-hmm. But you know, in your head, if you've ever shot it with a bear load, you're flinching 3 seconds before the trigger breaks over. It's that bad. You're like, ugh. And honestly, if I've ever in a situation where I would have to use one, I never have. I feel like I would not waste my bullets until I know that every one of my bullets is going to hit
the whites of their eyes,
hit the mark.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people get into a panic. They just start shooting, and then the bear's at 10 feet. And if it continues to come, and you never know. I mean,
okay, what was your things? Because I remember the last time you told me this, it was off podcast, but you were talking and it sparked some ideas. What was your features that you liked?
Pointability.
Agreed.
So that when you're in a panic and you grab the gun, it's pointing at what you're looking at.
Yeah.
So ergonomics that are consistent with you. I want enough weight or ports in the barrel so that the follow-up shot is a little bit faster.
Ported barrel, I like that.
Yeah. I want it to have some reflective quality so I can see it in a headlamp immediately.
Yep, I like that one too.
I want it to have enough texture in the grip that if my hands are bloody, if I'm gutting an animal, which is a likely scenario when a bear shows up, that my wet, slick hands can get a hold of this gun and control it. And then I want it to be able to be packable still. I'll take it back to motorcycles. You need to dress for the wreck. Like, preferably, I ride my motorcycle in 72-degree weather with jeans and a T-shirt.
Yeah.
But I don't. I dress like I'm about to land on Mars, and I have pads everywhere that I can get pads, and I have the highest quality of protection that I can have because I've wrecked before. And after you've wrecked once, you want as much squishy, hard stuff around you as possible. Otherwise, you are the squishy, hard stuff that then becomes squishy in places that it shouldn't.
Yeah. Or gets left on the pavement.
Right. So don't bring the gun to pack. Like that's dressing for the ride.
That's true.
Bring the gun for the bear, and then you're dressing for the wreck. So what gun do you want to have in your hand when it's going down? Now, I've been charged by a handful of animals: hippo, buffalo, mountain lion. You do not have time for very many shots. People really focus on magazine capacity. They want more bullets is more better.
That's very
Brothers
true.
and sisters, I'm telling you, you're not going to have very much time. And I'm in full agreement with you. You want to wait. You have a little bit more time than you think you have, but you have fewer shots than you think you have. So wait for that better shot, that closer shot, and execute it well. And then.
So what's your dream
have a
magazine
plan
capacity?
7. I don't care. Like, if you're getting 3 shots off, you started too early.
You started too early.
Yeah.
But isn't there like somebody said for like hopefully the warning, aka warning shot that accidentally missed him at 24 yards is better than like no shot until 10 yards?
I think if he's committed, he's coming.
And that's the argument I make against bear spray. So I guess it stands true. I always say it with bear spray. Like,
I think it depends on the scenario too. I mean,
for sure.
I think a lot of people don't realize that some ridiculous percentage, ridiculously high percentage, I was told by a friend that worked on the interagency bear study for several years, said it's like 95% sows.
Yeah.
And the most dangerous is a sow, obviously with cubs, and they don't mess around. They're not bluff charging. But if it's a lone bear, males will typically bluff charge. A female without cubs will typically bluff charge. But there's no way. I mean, a bluff charge looks the same until they stop.
Yeah.
So, and nobody has enough experience to know if that's a bluff charge. I think if you're in a scenario where you see cubs, especially young cubs, you take that as, that bear ain't stopping.
And I don't think that when that bear is charging, that it knows whether it's
I don't think so either.
Check up or not. I think
there's probably a few times where it's like I'm pot committed.
It's looking for a reaction out of whatever it's charging.
Yeah.
I think
if I think the bluff is a decision at that point to check up. So if you think that you can identify whether that's a bluff or not when that bear is coming, like you're trying to come up in your own mind something that bear hasn't decided yet itself.
Yeah.
And you're probably being a little bit arrogant. A little bit.
I'm just going to go out on a limb and say, like, it's not worth making that risk of a decision. Not worth saying, is it a bluff charge or not a bluff charge?
Okay, another thing I want to add to this is I've seen some guys that I will not name, but I've seen enough guys on video who have their pistol in one hand and their bear spray in the other. And I just don't think that's the move. I think you need to make a decision. Like, don't do two things poorly.
Never half-ass two things.
Yeah.
Always a whole ass one.
Yeah. we need to whole ass whichever direction you need to go. That's on you.
What about side pistol?
Oh, I
Cross draw?
I carry it under my binos.
Do you? Okay.
I use a Razco holster, and I'm actually fairly fast with it. So my fastest draw to hit is like 1.1 seconds on sort of the tactical rig, like I carried it at this match, and that's a belt with a draw holster that I carry at my hip. That's a draw that I practiced a lot. You know, guys like Max or Daniel, they're getting down into like 0.6, 0.8 seconds. I think Max has the world record for 6 shots from draw to 6th shot, and it's like 1.4 seconds, 1.3 seconds. Like ridiculously fast.
That's stupid fast.
Max is, the fastest pistol shot in the world.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good way to shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah. He's practiced a lot.
Well, for me anyway. I mean,
but yeah. So when I'm in that 1.3, 1.5 range for draw to shot out of my bino harness, where that's something that's on me all the time. I can wear it while I'm working on an animal. I'm not taking it on and off with a pack. The issue I have with putting it on your hip is if it's on your belt, then your waist strap of your pack is going over it, and that doesn't work. So then people transition it to their pack, and then they take their pack off sometimes.
Yeah, without it.
My bino harness stays on me until I crawl in my sleeping bag at night.
So I'm similar, but I will adjust depending on the situation. So if I'm looking for a mule deer outside of Cody, Wyoming, I'm expecting to go sideways. It's not a matter of if, it's when. And in that case, like, I'm doubled up, bear spray and guns on chest, even though I'm rifle hunting. Say, I don't know, I'm in the Bridgers. Like, I don't think that's going to be a high probability of an attack situation, even in a wounded game or a gutting or skinning, whatever. So I'll probably either run it there on my pack and run a bear spray on my harness just because it's lighter, and it also depends on heat. Like if it's 80 degrees out and I'm antelope hunting, probably not gonna run my Razco. I'll probably run it on my pack or whatever. So like I'll switch it up. If I go to Colorado and I'm rifle hunting, I don't even take a pistol. I'm like, screw the weight, I'll just have my rifle. Should be no bears here, who knows. So like I think it's situational dependent. Like if you're super high grizz country, yeah, I'm stacked. Like guns close, very close. But
yeah.
If not, if I'm hunting in Oregon, arguable.
Yeah, we'll leave that one alone. All right, fellas, any closing thoughts? Anything else you want to bring up? Get off your chest?
Sharps for life.
So you're committed next year. Sharps for S3?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay.
How tactical can I go or not go?
Dude, I'm the man with 16 pockets on my pants. You can't go too tactical.
Actually, you can.
Can
I get a vest?
if you're going to shoot a true sharps, you have to wear a fringe jacket too.
Yeah, buckskin diaper.
No, I'm going to go like polar opposite. I'm going to like 5'11", top to bottom. Yeah.
Yeah, blacked out.
Blacked out. Never take my sunglasses off.
Cerakote your sharps.
Yes.
Coyote brown.
Yes.
Oh man, people would be so upset.
I need to get like a chassis stock for my.
Oh jeez.
Did
they make them for the octagonal
Where there
barrels?
is a will, there's a way.
Yeah, where there's a CNC machine, there's a way. Well, you're also going to have to find somebody to be your shooting partner because I'm not going to be part of that abortion.
I'll go with you, Cody.
Because when we were elk hunting, we had elk running all around us at varying yardages, and you were dorking around with your vernier sight to just between 300 and 130 yards.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
losing my marbles.
Here's a closing story for you guys. So James and I went cow hunting a couple years ago, and I was like, I'm going to go shoot with the sharps. We roll up on a herd of elk, probably like 40 yards. Stopped the scooter.
Well, it was also like 39 seconds into our hunt.
Yeah, we literally drove the scooter up the hill, parked, and you're like, well, there they are. It's like, this is not how a sharps hunt goes. I don't know if I put the memo in before this deer guide, but it was like elk 40 yards from the scooter. They stand up, and then it becomes a world-class show for the next, I don't know, 30 minutes of us chasing elk.
Yeah.
And when you have
Fat guy and crippled guy just
bombing around. And like, so how the sight on a sharps work is like you have this like little, you have to tighten or loosen it up, and then you like screw for your mill. So it has mill dashes. So I have the fancy junior high quarterback armband that says how many mills for what yardage. So you're like doing math, and then you're like at this mill. And so you're running through the trees, but it's like 40-yard shot. Okay, 200-yard shot. Okay, 40-yard shot. But it's not like adjusting your scope where it's like click, click, click. It's like spin, 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 tight. And then like 2 seconds later, like, oh, there they go again. It's like, okay, spin, spin, spin. Just a gong show in every sense of the word, but we did get it done.
Yeah, we did get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah, elk in the freezer. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you both for your time today. If you want to know more about the Rich Outdoors podcast or about Backcountry Fuel Box, where do they find that?
Check out a podcast anywhere podcasts are found. The Rich Outdoors. It's on Spotify. It's on iTunes. It's on everywhere. And from there, or backcountryfuelbox.com. Or shoot me a message, whatever social platform you prefer. If you got questions, I'm happy to help.
How about you, Ben? Where do people find you?
Facebook.
I'm on Facebook. Mm-hmm. I'm not very active. Yeah. I'm on Instagram. Ben Guttormson.
Okay.
He's a killer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've posted on IG since 2018.
Still saying 2000, huh? You going to keep that up the whole century?
Yeah. Makes it clear.
Switch to the 20, bro.
Yeah.
Switch to the 20. Someday we can drop the 20 completely. I don't know when that day is, but one of these days we're just going to be able to say the second two numbers.
When you say the 20s, like we're in the 20s now, it's still kind of like, are we talking 1920s or the 2020s?
Well, us who shoot guns from this century don't get confused.
It's going to be 89 years or
I shoot a gun from like 2 centuries ago, so it's fine.
Yeah, I think Sharps is like 1861, something like that, right?
Originally, yeah. 63?
Right in there.
Is original Sharps over in Big Timber here? Is that original Sharps?
No, it's not.
Okay. They relocated there.
That's not the real Sharps.
Oh, okay.
That's a company that called themselves Sharps. They make the best Sharps out there right now, but that's not who originally founded it.
Okay.
Nerd.
True colors shown.
All right, thanks. We'll catch you next time.
Peace.
Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Cody has been a good friend for years, and after getting to know Ben over the past few days, I can tell you we're going to be buddies for a long time too. I encourage you to check out Cody's Backcountry Fuel Box. I subscribed for a couple years, but shamefully ate everything before it ever reached a backpack. And since you are the podcast type, you should check out his show, The Rich Outdoors. Ben is the kind of guy you want to have a beer with, and I encourage you to find the guy and take the chance to do just that. This podcast was edited by Emily Brannigan, with original music written and performed by Justin Hay. Art for the Six Ranch podcast was created by John Chatelain and digitized by Celia Christofferson. If you enjoyed the show, I encourage you to subscribe and share it with a buddy. I'll catch you next week.